Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
I'm losing to a baby.
A baby?
We gave our friends baby, like random toys assigned to random teams. And through the first game, I didn't have to check to see where she was at last night. Through the first game, this 10 to 11 month old infant was 6 for 8. And we were all 2 for 8.
Wow.
I was 0 for 4 after Monday.
Yeah, you were 2 for 8 after Tuesday.
Hell yeah.
Losing to a baby.
To be fair, Wednesday night was the redemption tour.
It was, yeah. 3 for 4. Much better. The universe was a little bit more aligned in terms of what was happening in hockey. But when I saw the Washington over Florida, the first one, I went, oh, God.
Here we go.
Yeah, this is exactly why. I was talking to Mel about it, and she was like, is that your pick? I had my bracket up. I was like, yeah. She goes, oh, like, do you think you're going to win? I was like, absolutely not. No. The only thing I can bet against me, I guarantee you'll win. There's no way. She's like, you think Calgary's going to win the cup? I was like, nope. She's like, why do you pick them? I think they're going to win in the cup. Yeah, it's all an exercise in how this is all stupid and everyone's just guessing. So Steve Yzerman knew exactly what he was doing when he opened that presser, apologizing for being late because he had some phone calls he had to wrap up, right? Because it means zero. It means absolutely nothing. The phone calls could have been to his dentist that he's had to rebook twice.
It was 1,000% his wife, but not one person thought it was his wife.
But he was saying, he was thinking, oh man, this is going to be funny. They're going to tweet about this. How stupid. They're all so dumb. And we are.
Steve Yzerman working the phones already. Big offseason ahead.
Yzerman, do we want shawarma or pizza tonight?
Yeah.
Oh man, we are one episode removed from the big Jeff Blashill has been let go from the Detroit Red Wings news. I feel like Red Wings fans have just been decompressing after the best season of the rebuild so far. You know, that might be true. I have a hard time assigning the word best to a lot of what happened this year, but definitely the most eventful season.
Definitely the shiniest turd.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad the poet.
There's been nothing poetic about this rebuild so far.
There's some tragic poetry out there.
Well, if you're going for like the tragedies, okay.
This has been more like Edgar Allan Poe kind of poetry rather than anything else. As Evan makes a disdainful groan. You're the poetry expert here.
Yeah, expert. Yes, definitely.
Off the Raven. Anyways.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, not to talk to you about literature, but rather the Detroit Red Wings, the world of hockey, the playoffs, and an inevitable argument between us about reviews in the playoffs. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
Settle down, Windsor boy. I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Before we jump into actually, why don't I tell you what we're going to talk about today? Yzerman's press conference where he wrapped up the news about Jeff Blashill being let go, gave us an Yzerman level of insight into what he's looking for with the next head coach, some ideas about what's going to happen in free agency, and pretty much the rest of the exercise known as bleeding a rock, which is trying to glean any information from Steve Yzerman. We'll be talking about some updates from the Red Wings as they did their postseason or end of season availability, and then we'll be talking about the playoffs and everything else that comes up. Before that, 2 quick updates. First of all, the running total so far, as we're tallying up the donations from the Wings Money on the Board season-long campaign, $28,000.
That is crazy. Wow.
We were talking to Prashant and we were like, oh, we're so excited. And next season, we're going to do better. Why don't we aim for $30,000 next season? And here you guys are at 28,000 and still counting. A lot of those pledges were based on the Calder Trophy. A lot of those pledges were based on the draft lottery. A lot of those pledges are still people.
Well, those draft lottery payments aren't coming.
No, there have been people to say when we inevitably stay or move down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot coming through.
Exactly. And there's some people who said, yeah, I'm going to get to cashing in that donation later this week. So they're still coming in. Thank you all so much. If you need help calculating, someone had an actual formula. It was like reading the quadratic equation. They're like N equals number of Bertuzzi.
What a nerd.
I know, but it was a big donation. So thank you to that person. So $28,000 and counting to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. Also, speaking of raising some money for the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and speaking of things that are by popular request, I don't know, that was a contrived segue. The flannels, the Winged Wheel Podcast Mickey Redmond style flannels have been ordered. They are in production. Stay tuned. Details on how to get yours. It's going to be a limited run to start, so you'll have to act fast. Details are coming shortly. So thank you all so much for expressing your interest. We weren't sure if people were going to want them, and then I was like that video of the kid doing a presentation and every kid in the class threw his their backpack at him. That was us asking if anyone wants a flannel. All right. The press conference, the end of season press conference, aside from Steve Yzerman opening up, are you good?
I had a caffeinated bubbly not more than an hour ago.
You are at 5 yawns, and we are...
It's probably because it's hotter than Africa in here.
Oh, gosh.
How do you have a sweater on?
I warmed it up because Brad said he was cold last time.
Oh my God. Even folks in a senior citizen home would think it's hot in here.
You're a folk in a senior citizen home.
Right now I am.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
This is like the second circle of hell in here.
Anyhow, the end of season press conference opened up, and Steve Yzerman, aside from his witty remark about being on a phone call, basically outlined why he made the decision to move on from Jeff Blashill. And he was pretty frank, and not in a disrespectful way, but he didn't try to mince words or bury it. He just felt like the team on and off the puck was regressing again. That's essentially what he said. He felt that the progress that they were making kind of went away, and their play wasn't coming together. And he acknowledged that there were personnel issues, i.e. the defense sucks. The players the Red Wings have suck, but he also feels like there's more that could have been done in terms of team defense and in terms of individual improvement of players. So you can tell he didn't take the decision lightly, and it was a confirmation of what the obvious was. Everything we saw from January onwards was the reasoning.
Yeah, he parroted everything any Red Wing fan with common sense has been saying all year. Truthfully, he even went so far as to reference the schedule as like, yeah, we had a very strong start to the season against a very easy schedule, and then we were getting killed by good teams at the end of the season. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially what he said. And none of that should come as a surprise to anybody who's watched as many as 5 games this year spread out over this season. Like, you know, you have the easy schedule, bad personnel. You see the lack of progression from certain players that we've talked about to death. You saw the absolute regression, especially of the team defense and the special teams as the season wore on. I'm surprised that Yzerman actually said it so plainly. That was about the only surprising thing about what he said, was that he actually said it.
Yeah. He did say later on he should have opened with this, but he called out specifically, and I think this is what made it a tough decision. He called out specifically the good things about Jeff Blashill. And he said, you know, Jeff did a good job of keeping what was a situation that could have been really bad. He kept it from being a complete shit show. And those are Yzerman's words. And
did he though?
He used the S word, yeah.
Did he though?
Well, he talked about he said you can't judge Jeff Blashill on his record, and he was talking about that within the scope of what he was doing for the program, like keeping things structured, keeping things in line, keeping it from being a complete mess. Look at Winnipeg. Look at Ottawa. Look at what's happened in Vancouver. Yes, I am just naming Canadian teams. Yes, Canadian teams in the NHL are like the soap operas of hockey.
No, remember the ads. The NHL doesn't have soap operas. Yeah, it's just hockey.
No soap operas, right? It's a lot of what's happened in that back end. It very well could have happened to Detroit, but Steve Yzerman credits Jeff Blashill and his staff for what they did, and that has been said ad nauseum before Jeff Blashill got fired. It's been said by the players. It's been said by Yzerman, you know, in seasons where he had just extended Jeff Blashill. And that wasn't a surprise either. And again, like you said, Brad, any fan who's been tuning in or has paid attention knows that's why Yzerman has had... It wasn't his favorite decision in the world, and you can tell. So I think there's a lot when Steve Yzerman speaks. He said it himself. Don't listen to what I say. Like, don't try to interpret what I say. I'm not going to tell you much. And even later on,
Don't tell me what to do.
Even later on in his press conference, he says, in the middle of an answer, he said, I'm trying to say as much as possible while actually saying nothing, if you haven't figured that out by now. Like, those are his words.
I love this man.
He should go into politics.
He might be too good.
No, because he actually delivers on things he promises.
So far. We'll see. There's not a lot that you can glean in terms of like big grand plans, but something that he's said plainly the entire time that I think we sometimes get away from is he is genuinely just trying to make this team better in some way every year. All the time he's looking at moves to make things better. He's not. It's easy to kind of map things out and say, all right, you're going to suck. And then after this point, when you get this,
I bet you are.
Oh, that's going to be a clip. And at this point is when you pull the trigger and all of a sudden we're going to be good. A, that's not the way this thing works. And B, he's like, how am I supposed to execute on that? He has said the entire time, I just want to make this team better. And I think that's one of the only things you can believe him on when he says it. There's no one certain path on how to get to a rebuilt cup competitive team. There's some things you have to do, and you certainly love to be lucky. But at the very least, the role of the GM boiled down to its bare essentials is just make the team better at every given opportunity, right?
Yeah, but the one thing I'm worried people will lean into that on is, okay, so the Red Wings are going to improve this summer. Well, not necessarily, because he didn't give a timeline on how and when to make them better. If he trades Tyler Bertuzzi for 2 first-round picks and a great prospect, that made the team better. Not this year, but that made the team better. So just careful with the interpretation of that when people are thinking about that over the course of the summer.
That's something called nuance, Brad, and unfortunately we don't have room for that in today's discourse.
No, I learned that Monday night, but that's a topic for later.
Well, it certainly is. And he did give credit to that kind of thing. Like, he talked about how to improve the team. He's like, if a trade is there, yeah, but there doesn't seem to be anything out there right now. And he's like, for free agency, he's like, I got a big list of players I'd love to sign. He's like, I think they're great players and they'd be a great fit for the team, but I don't know if we can get any of them. And that's a good point. You know, this isn't Florida with 0 state tax. This isn't, Vegas in a similar situation in like a warm climate. Yeah, those of us who live in or been to Detroit or know what the city is like in terms of its culture and its people and the history of the team, it's great. But this isn't a winning franchise right now. You got to convince people to come there, and you got to get them to buy in. And not every player's in that phase of their career. And shit, some players are going to say, hey, I don't want to come over for a Steve Yzerman amount of money, because he's a hard negotiator with UFAs.
Yeah, it's the thing with free agents. You know who Steve Yzerman probably likes as a free agent this summer? Johnny Gaudreau. Do you know who's probably going to get entirely too much money in term? Johnny Gaudreau. So does it make sense for a rebuilding team to do that? Probably not.
Yeah, if
Johnny Gaudreau is willing to take an $8 million by 4-year contract, I bet you he'd be a Red Wing. But he probably won't.
And you look at something more realistic. Vincent Trocheck is someone who we talk about quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very reasonable, if you're of the mind that you want the Red Wings to get much better, especially through free agency, Vincent Trocheck is the kind of player that you want to target, right?
Yeah, probably not getting 8 years, second line center on a cup contending team. Like, sure, he's an upgrade over literally anybody who's in contention for that position right now.
What kind of money is Vincent Trocheck going to command on this market? Probably
Steve Yzerman's going to find out.
And it's going to be the difference in what maybe Trocheck wants and what Yzerman's going to have to offer, or is going to be willing to offer to keep the cap structure, is going to have to be bridged by buying into a future winning team. And I think we're getting closer to that point. I don't think Yzerman's going to have as tough a time selling free agents as he would have, in 2019 or 2020. But it's still a ways away from, hey, you have an opportunity to join Tampa Bay or Florida this offseason, or Vegas or whoever else.
Trocheck's already played for one of those teams.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing where you're like, okay, we are no steps further in understanding where we're at in the timeline. Actually, Yzerman was asked specifically where they're at in the timeline, and he said at the end of year 3 and the start of year 4. And that's about as much as you get. Meanwhile,
he's not wrong.
Meanwhile, you have in Ottawa, essentially Pierre Dorian saying, F you, we're not spending to the cap until the fans fill the arena.
That was a bit taken out of context. It wasn't as blatantly aggressive as it made it sound, but it's still bad.
What did he say? I actually don't know the context.
He was asked like a question about spending to the cap or whatever it was, and he kind of said, tongue in cheek, we're probably not a cap team this year unless we sell out all 41 home games. Ha ha ha! Like it was a more lighthearted response than the text quote would make it seem.
Right.
But you still don't say that, Pierre.
Pierre, that's a quiet part. You're not meant to say that out loud. So, oh, Pierre. And then you have Vancouver, who came close to the playoffs after a disastrous start to the season where they hung on to their GM and their head coach really for too long. At least the GM should have gone in the offseason. And the coach that got him there, that turned things around, there's this weird non-committal to him as a coach. And I get that there's probably a big disparity in what Bruce Boudreau's asking for and what the Canucks are willing to offer. And like,
you know how much it costs to live in Vancouver? They should pay him whatever he wants.
Now, this is an extension, right? Because he's under contract for this year as well, right?
There's like an option. There's like a double opt-out kind of business. It's funky. It's a weird situation.
Because even Jim Rutherford was saying on record, he's like, no, we're not giving him like an extension, like blatant, like just no, it's not in the cards. But then he also, like within the next couple sentences, said, yeah, we'll trade a player before we'll trade a bunch of players before we fire him. And I'm like, talking out of both sides of your mouth there, eh, Jim?
Well, there's part of this where if Bruce doesn't like the situation he's in, I'm pretty sure he can opt out as well. And there's that deadline coming up.
Interesting.
And it's just, and that's what I'm talking about with Canadian teams and the soap operas. Calgary has been the most unproblematic Canadian team this year, and that's why they are where they are. And they've also been playing great hockey. Did you see Sutter's response in that press conference?
God,
I cannot understand what he says 90% of the time.
Yeah, he does. He talks like Sutter talks. Someone asked him, they're like, because Tkachuk got on that confrontation with Raffle, where Raffle fed it to him, actually. And they said, did you want to see Tkachuk, like, did you not like to see that kind of confrontation or whatever it was? He's like, no, I love to see it. It's that's playoffs. You need a little confrontation or something to that effect.
It's the playoffs, Eric.
Yeah.
You need a little confrontation.
And in fairness, that was a good prompt from the reporter, because you want to get him talking about that kind of thing.
Pacifists are triggered.
I love Daryl Sutter, even though he talks like every airline pilot announcing the details to the passengers.
Kind of looks like an airline pilot.
Yeah.
And pass a fist through your face. That's his stance.
Can you imagine him trying to give like a big pump up pregame speech? I'm sure he's great at it, but I feel like it's impossible. Like, it's the same thing with Bill Belichick. They are so monotone and quiet and soft-spoken and like no bullshit. Like, I just can't see their energy levels ever getting above like a 1.5. Like
him walking in, don't mess around.
Just gives everybody a firm handshake and they go out.
We practice. Just do what we do in practice.
And then all the boys are saying,
that is like prototypical NHL hockey right there. That's what dressing room was like. Anyhow, there were some questions, and Steve Yzerman gave some interesting's a word answers to what he's looking for in his next coach. And lo and behold, he doesn't have answers yet. He doesn't have someone in mind. He was pretty forthcoming in that he doesn't even have a list. He's like, I have a few names, bumping around in my mind, but I still have to compile everything. He's like, I'm going to talk to people I know. I'm going to read what people are writing about this. And he's like, I'm going to compile everyone who...
Shit, Ryan, we got to get an article out.
I know, I already wrote one to make it Evan.
Okay.
Yeah. But Evan, sorry, they're going to...
Hockey's best kept secret.
They play on Wednesdays, so you're going to have to miss some men's league.
Yeah, I can't commit to that job then. I'm all about the work-social balance.
Right. And he's going to have to pare that down from there. And he said, he's not restricting it to anything. So he's not restricting it to guys who've just coached in the NHL. He's not restricting it to just North America, because he was asked about both those things, like Europe, and are you going to want someone who's NHL only? Really, the only thing that he let on was that he says he finds it difficult to hire people that he doesn't know, or he hasn't really worked with, or knows the way he likes things done. And he even went...
Old boys club?
Well, then he even went so far to say but that's something I have to like correct for. He's like, I have to move past that. That's just my inherent bias, or something to that effect. So,
and also the hockey world is huge, but it's also very small. Like, if you limit coaching options down to just people Yzerman knows, it's probably still a dozen.
So it adds up to what we know so far. There's a million names. You just go read what Max wrote, and Max gave some more names later on in a future piece as well. Go read that on the Athletic Detroit, and think of the names that are bouncing around in his head. It's probably the same ones that you have. Benoit Gros, one of them. Probably
John Tortorella.
You got to stop with the torts meme because people are running with it. And in terms of timeline, what to expect. At one point, he said he'd love to have it done before training camp. Not long after, he said he'd love to have it done before the draft.
Next week.
Hey, that's what I said last episode. Thanks, Steve.
It's Steve Yzerman's world. We're just living in it. We know what we know, which isn't much. We can safely say that we're pretty early on in the conversation in terms of what's happening for a coach. I'm not saying it's going to take a long time from here on out. It's priority one for him, and you know that for a fact. He'll tune into the draft lottery to watch Detroit get boned, and that's...
He'll do the old Jim Nell, where he's like, and takes his earbuds out and leaves.
That was great.
That's exactly how I felt.
Little quirks like that about like the all virtual pandemic or the stuff like that, like draft and draft lottery. It was hysterical watching them navigate that. Although I don't miss having to wait for them to navigate computers.
They should still send all the mascots to the draft lottery.
Philly wins every draft lottery because Gritty's
just like whipping his belly around.
Yeah. Other notable points from the presser, Yzerman made a point to call out Jonathan Berggren when asked. They said they wanted him to work on specific things throughout the year, and he said he was really pleased with how Berggren progressed. And it sounds like Berggren has situated himself out well for a potential spot on the team next year.
Yeah, he was the rookie of the month for the last month of the AHL season. So if there's one final audition going into training camp, he nailed it.
And then asked about, Edvinsson obviously has a great chance to make the team next year. And even asked about Soderblom. He talked about Soderblom. He talked about Johansson. He talked about Vero. Soderblom specifically, he's like, there's mutual interest and they want to get the ELC done and presumably soon, which shouldn't come as a surprise. But even with Soderblom, like the way he said it is like they know that they have a likely NHLer in him, or there's a potential at least for someone drafted really late to blossom to something much more than expected, which is what we've seen from Soderblom. But he talked about like a year or two ago. He was like, usually guys that big, you're that big, but you're not strong like that size, and you have to grow into it.
Just a stick bug out there.
But yeah. A lot of the complaints about Michael Rasmussen early year, and even a bit now, it's like, you're that big, but you're not as strong as your size suggests. He was like, Soderblom is big and like already that strong. And he was saying this in like 2020, 2021. Like, this isn't someone that they are surprised by, even though Soderblom really took the world by storm this past year. So I'm not saying Soderblom's going to make the team this year, but I think it just really cements a lot of the progress that we've seen from him. And then he also mentioned like Johansson and Vero have had great seasons, and for them to be specifically called out like that is, you can understand that those guys are well on the track to make their way over. So that to me all was notable enough, at least in terms of what to expect with the pipeline coming through. And then, yeah, we're just going to have to see how the offseason goes. He has decisions to make regarding RFAs. He has decisions to make regarding UFAs, but I don't really know how much changeover we're going to see on the roster. A lot of it's going to be driven by a potential trade, potentially who makes the team out of camp, and then what happens with who he can convince to sign in Detroit, right?
Yep.
A lot of balls in the air this summer. Everything and nothing is on the table.
Yeah. All right. Some other notable points from end of season pressers. Larkin seems to be recovering well and should be back in time for training camp, which is good. So not a lot of time missed for him. Just some rest and recovery during the offseason. I'm sure that's going to be a little bit.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah. Well, he won't be golfing as much.
Okay, it sounds terrible.
Your life flashed before your eyes there.
It did.
And Robby Fabbri is, I think, 5 weeks out now from surgery, but he's still no timetable on his return. It's a torn ACL. Part of it's a surgery. Part of it's the recovery, and then part of it's getting back into game shape. It is not fun. Have either of you torn one?
No.
Nope.
I just tried to watch the McDavid documentary and almost threw up on a plane.
It was, yeah, that was rough.
No, thank you.
And his was like an especially good case of recovery.
Nope, don't care.
Yeah, I injured my patella tendon like 2 years ago and it's still mangled, and that's like a nothing ligament in your knee, so I couldn't imagine.
That one, I'm starting to feel mine on my right knee. And I'm like, ugh, I feel like that one's going to go eventually.
Do you enjoy squatting at the gym?
Yes.
I would stop enjoying it because your time on that isn't limited then.
I feel like that what might be causing it, or at least making it a little bit worse.
Well, I don't know if that's what caused it, made it worse or whatever, but I haven't been able to in 6 months. So, because it just kept getting worse.
If I ever
and worse
go
and
back
worse.
to the gym, I'm never lifting heavy again.
Are you ever going to go back to the gym?
No, but if I do, I'm never doing it again because everything
Evan's
just
living in that 15 to 20 rep range.
everything just cracks all the time now.
Yeah.
Going upstairs, my toes and my ankles and my knees just crack, and it's just, what is the purpose of me trying to just throw this weight around anymore?
Prevent all that cracking and, body breaking down.
Sounds like you're being rational. We don't like all that.
I will not be putting up any weight.
Hold on. I've got it. I've got the argument I can get through to Evan. Evan, the longer you're able to lift healthy and keep your body in good shape, the longer you can golf.
So like 2 more years, I could physically lift heavy weight until my knees were like, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, until you're a Tiger, essentially.
Yeah.
Just without the prestigious golf career.
Whoa. You never know. I might win club championship one day at Whistlebear. Get the parking spot.
Oh, is that what you do? You get a parking spot?
For the full year. It's in our parking lot is always full because we always have 4 weddings going at all time.
Yeah.
Front row, best spot for parking. Oh, it's coveted.
What do you got to shoot? Like 500 to win it?
At least the one guy who's like 60 was in it last year having beers, and he shot 2 under.
Get wrecked, idiot.
Yeah.
So which tour did he play on before he retired?
Yeah, we got a couple of guys who are unreal. Yeah, you got to be about 500 to win. So that's well outside my range.
Some other Red Wings updates. Lucas Raymond declined his World Championship invite to Team Sweden. And that one is just citing he has played the most professional hockey in a single year of his life. And I'm sure he's dealing with, the minor injuries that a NHL player accumulates. Think of Evan. He sits and then he golfs, and how much you have going on at any single moment in terms of injuries. And then think of a pro hockey player and how much worse that's got to be. So, I mean, all the power to him for taking that time to rest. And as a Red Wings fan, that's probably a very good thing.
He's not even a top 60 Swedish player, so I would even bother.
Right.
He wouldn't make the team anyway.
And then Sebastian Cossa named WHL Player of the Month. So again,
player or goalie? I actually didn't pay attention. I thought he was something of the month.
The fact that we need to clarify that now because of
how good
NCAA.
Oh,
that's funny. You're still on that.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And then he finds out the guy who won the Hobie was taking peds.
It was
just kidding.
It was wow. Yeah. So Sebastian Cossa was named WHL Goaltender of the Month.
Hell yeah! Well, that includes a playoff round. It's a good sign.
Yep. Theodor Niederbach has made the switch to Rogla, so that's Sider's old team.
Just wanted to upgrade jerseys, I see.
Yeah, pretty much. And we'll hopefully have an increased role there, and one where he can kind of take on a little bit more of an opportunity to shine and show why he was a Red Wings pick and why there's hope for him to maybe come down the pipeline as a center in the future. We'll see if that's still in the cards. And Robert Mastrosimone has made the transition from Boston University to Arizona State.
That's a big move.
It's kind of interesting.
He wants to play in an NHL arena.
Is this his way of petitioning for a trade to the Coyotes? Like, should we be worried?
Man, he could be a second line player on the Coyotes right now.
Maybe even a third line on Arizona State.
Man. So regarding the move itself, I actually don't really. This is one that I would love to know more about because that's a much different program, to say the least. Boston is, as far as I know, a good spot to be. I'd love to hear the story there, whether it was a personnel, like a coaching thing, whether it's an ice time thing, whether it's a future role. I don't know, but Or there's a myriad of other issues that could come up that can make that worthwhile for a player to move, but it's definitely an interesting one.
Can't remember if BU moved on from their coach or not.
Jay Pandolfo actually just got named coach of Boston University, their hockey team. So he's the replacement coming in. So as time goes on, we're going to act more about how the YZERPlan, so to speak, is actually going to roll out. And Tuesday, May 10th is the next step in that. So tune in with us. We're going to live stream our reactions to the Red Wings inevitably winning Jack All.
I'll give you my reaction right now. Huh.
Yeah. Wow. Super engaged, Evan, this podcast. The Red Wings have 8th best lottery odds, so you know what's going to happen there. But that's not going to stop us from live streaming the pain. So tune in with us. We're going to start the live stream around 6:30 p.m. Eastern. The draft lottery should be around 7 if the NHL is to be trusted, which has historically proven to be something smart to do. And
we already know what they're going to pick. Evans foretold this prophecy for years. They've picked 6th over and over and over and over again, so naturally now they have to pick 9th.
Yeah, actually, that's
true.
That's poetic, really. Moving down one spot. It's not moving down 2 spots. It's not all of the pain, but it's some pain.
And then next year, the Red Wings will draft 4th, and then the next year, they'll be 20th.
I can actually see it.
If we pick 4th next year, I might shoot somebody.
Yeah, that's next year. If you pick 4th, that is exactly the kind of Red Wings pain, because then you miss Bedard, Michkov, and Fantilli.
Yeah.
God,
hopefully that Stramel kid's as good as people.
Oh, that's happening. 100% that's happening. And then at that point, Yzerman's going to be like, oh, screw this. And he's going to go full bore on making the team better. And then they're going to pick 20th the year after.
Exactly.
Yep.
He's going to be so mad. He's going to nuke the rest of the league. So someone significant's getting offer sheeted out of
Connor
spite.
McDavid. Back up the Brinks truck.
You heard it here first.
Connor McDavid, $18 million a year.
Austin Matthews, come on over.
Oh, please.
Well, we'll get into how his team is doing in a second, but first, let's talk about how this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, sponsor that gives Red Wings fans what we really need right now, even more excitement in the game now that the Red Wings season is over. There's so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're simple to use with great odds on different betting markets, giving you more action every game day. They're tons of fun with unique bet types like same game parlay and exclusive promos on the biggest events. And when you win, you get your winnings back safely in as little as 24 hours. FanDuel is also letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win that bet. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you get up to $1,000 back in site credit. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started with that promo, and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel podcast sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code WWP. You must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, or Virginia, Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan. Stanley Cup Playoffs. Wild first set of games. Unpredictable first set of games. And most importantly, they staggered the start times so you never have to go without watching hockey.
On a Monday. Baby steps. Baby steps.
I'm happy it starts on a Monday. Who has anything going on Monday? Don't talk about your beer league. You start watching at 7, you end watching whenever you want to finish. The West Coast games finish at 11:30. Boom. I'm
an hour already asleep.
Yeah, you're gone. You're an old man. You talked about being an old age home. That's you. That's you right now. I'm happy they've done it, and it's just so nice in terms of a viewing experience. And as a neutral viewer, right? Like, yeah, you root for the teams you hate the most to lose. You root for the Leafs to lose in the most creative ways possible, but it's just nice to always have playoff hockey on. Why don't we talk a little bit about how things have gone so far? Which series do we want to start with?
Start at the top of your list.
Colorado, Nashville. As expected. Moving on.
Yeah. I think, who was it? Ryan Lambert had the best quote on this one for his podcast. He's like, and the only show notes I wrote for this one is LOL. Moving on.
What was it? 5-0, 15 minutes in?
Yeah. And Colorado, fun little troll. They left the score up on the scoreboard all night, so it was still on the scoreboard while Nashville was practicing the following morning.
Imagine having like the easiest, because UC Saros is out.
Yeah.
David Rittich let in.
That is not who you want as your backup goalie.
And they're not even starting him today. Like the third string goalie's in net.
I would have rather had Thomas Greiss than him.
Well, they called him Big Save Dave. I don't know when that was coming, but
just because he made one save all game.
Well, that's what they.
That probably feels like an accomplishment the way that game was going on.
It was short for one Big Save Dave.
That's it.
You feel for Nashville because you almost think.
I don't feel bad for anybody. Why would you feel bad for them?
Yeah, let's be honest. Saros wasn't saving them that game.
No, I feel stupid for having Nashville even winning a game, honestly.
That goal Cale Makar scored, where he like did like 3 crossovers to the middle and then put the brakes on at the blue line and went back where he came from and then tucked it in, was ridiculous.
Did you see the gif of him just eating a cookie on the bench?
No.
The dude's a meme. Like, he's a living meme. Like, he does that, and then you zoom in on him on the bench. He's just eating a chocolate chip cookie.
Banner comes over. Good boy. Here he goes.
Here's your treat.
Don't show Nathan. Go eat it at the other end of the bench.
Thanks, Coach Dad.
Yeah, Nashville's screwed.
It's a tough draw. It's funny because you're like, oh my God, they would have been better off playing Calgary.
Yes. But I'm not sure how much better.
I'm not sure how much better either.
Yeah, you know who else thought that and was on record as saying that a team would be better off playing Calgary? Daryl Sutter. Remember that? It's like, who would want to play Colorado in the first round? It'd be a waste of 8 days.
I love that guy, man.
I love that, man. It was funny. We were listening to a podcast on the way home from Niagara Falls today, and someone referenced Daryl Sutter, and Crystal Wade's like Crystal's a very casual fan outside of Detroit. She's like, wait, he's back coaching the NHL? I'm like, yeah, he's going to win Coach of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, really? And I'm like, oh, yeah, and it probably shouldn't be close.
A lot of people are going to eat. Like, a lot of people are very surprised, but I guess we shouldn't be.
No. A man who has 2 cups in the last decade, still good at coaching, more at 7.
Minnesota, St. Louis. I've had some people tell me that they picked St. Louis to go to the finals, and I think that's a sneaky good pick. I'm not sure it's likely.
Didn't they lose like 6-2 last night?
It was a good value bet. I think the odds of them winning the cup were like over 2,000.
Yeah, they were long. But, I mean, that series is tied 1-1, and the Blues took the first game. Yeah.
In a shutout, right?
In a shutout.
By
Billy Husso.
Weird.
You weren't wrong. And he's the goalie to do it, right? You come in, you were unreal all year. You're overshadowed, of course, by what Shesterkin was doing.
And nobody outside of St. Louis has any frigging clue who you are.
That's a sneaky good pick. So Minnesota solved it. They won 6-2 the game after St. Louis won 4-0. So
evenly matched series tied at 1.
I think it's going to be a fun series.
It's a coin flip.
Yeah.
They're going to kill each other.
You can say that about 5 different series right now.
Yeah, but then these 2 teams are going to kill each other and then have to recover while playing Colorado.
Yeah.
So, sorry, what was that about a sneaky good cup run?
You've seen Colorado bottle it before, right?
Yeah, it's fair.
Calgary, Dallas, speaking about teams that are going to kill each other.
They tried.
Matthew Tkachuk, like, if you're ever playing him, if your team is ever playing him, you hate him. You loathe him the same way you loathe Brad Marchand. Like,
but you'd back up the Brinks truck for both of those guys.
God. Having Tkachuk on your team right now, Sutter's not wrong. He's exactly the kind of guy you want on your team for the year. You could.
We just throw the offer sheet out there.
And I'm sure it'd be very easy.
Yep, just like that. We got him. Done.
It's just like NHL 2020 or 2022. That first game, like that's a series where I was actually surprised by how competitive Dallas was. That was a 1-0 game.
But if you wanted to know exactly how that series was going to play out, that game was probably like the perfect parody of itself. Oh, the team that can't score outside of one line is going to come in and play the best defensive team in the league. And these 2 teams are both hyper aggressive, so they're going to kill each other. A lot of fights, not a lot of goals. Calgary's 1 goal came from arguably the best line in hockey. Dallas only mustered like 16 or 17 shots on net. Like, nothing was surprising that game. Nothing.
Game 2 is tonight, I believe. We're recording this on Thursday before the game starts, so we'll see where that one goes. Yeah, because tonight is Penguins Rangers game 2, Caps Panthers game 2, Preds Avalanche game 2, and Stars Flames the same.
Just because we dunked on Nashville so hard, you know they're winning like 4-3 tonight.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
And then Oilers Kings, also a series that's tied at 1-1.
Talk about puckered butts after game 1.
Talk about a predictable series. Oilers goaltending inconsistent.
Literally past the game, like past the other team to lose the game.
But made a ridiculous first save on the pass to the other team.
And then follows that up with a shutout. Connor McDavid, still really good at hockey. Edmonton still definitively the better team, but Edmonton still found a way in one of those 2 games to shoot themselves in the foot. Like
the hockey world deserves Calgary Edmonton in the second round. I just can't see a way where. Sorry, I shouldn't say I can't see a way. Edmonton's going to have to fix a lot of how they shoot themselves in the foot if they expect to get past the second round. Or even the first. Like, the Kings aren't going to be an easy beat.
Counterpoint. Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Counterpoint. Mike Smith.
Yep. If the logic goes out the window, if you're a fan of maximum chaos, Edmonton's your bandwagon. Like, for all the good and bad reasons.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that there hasn't been a Battle of Alberta in the playoffs since like the 90s, like early 90s, like 91.
91.
Oh, there we go.
We deserve it.
They've been in the same division the whole time.
We got this playoff format because of the lack of Battle of Alberta in playoffs.
Bettman was like, okay, we've given it 25 years. We have to change something here. That's the West. And again, the game 2s are happening tonight, so we'll see how that goes. But over in the East, Washington and Florida, where Washington leads 1-0.
I thought Washington played very, very good. Obviously, they won, so yeah, they did. But I thought they played a perfect road game.
That's a game where a lot of people were going, why did I bet against them?
Florida didn't really seem to get a whole lot going.
I believe last episode I had a rant about loser franchises. And Florida, having not won a series since 96, kind of fits that bill. If they lose this series, they are the ultimate loser franchise because they won the President's Trophy.
Oh, of the season.
Maybe in general. I mean, Atlanta got moved for less than this.
No.
Now it's one game. We're not overreacting. I'm still very much confident Florida's winning that series. All I'm saying is if they don't, you win the President's Trophy and you haven't won a playoff round since 96.
You don't want to win the President's Trophy. It's a curse.
I mean, the Red Wings won a cup after winning it, so I'm not super concerned about it.
I think they're an outlier in terms of President's Trophies equals cups.
It's not common, but that's the unpredictability of the playoffs. And
to be fair, President's Trophies winners usually, even if they don't win the cup, go on a run at least. Like they're Final Four more often than they're not.
But yeah, no, the Caps, you're right. They played a good enough game where you're like, I shouldn't have thought it'd be so easy. So I think they're going to give Florida a run.
Tom Wilson, I don't think is playing this game, so that's a huge loss for them.
It's a massive loss. That was a lower body injury.
Yeah, when you play a team as deep as Florida, you need all the bodies you can get, especially Tom Wilson.
Yes. Another player where you're like, you hate to play against him, but if you have an opportunity to bring him onto your team, how valuable is he?
I don't think the New York Rangers would, but maybe.
Maybe not. Maybe not with Dolan as...
Yeah, Ryan Reeves, they're fine.
Yeah. The Leafs and the Lightning.
Talk about maximum chaos.
What is going... Okay, first off, the Kyle Clifford hit was so stupid.
I played hockey with Kyle Clifford. He once fought someone at summer camp.
Yeah,
and then we all had to bag skate because he's an idiot. It was horrendous. Now, I missed the day he did it. So I come back and the guy who runs the camp was like livid. And I was like, what the hell's going on?
Evan just shows up and is getting bag skated because of a future NHLer.
Yeah, it was brutal.
So
I mean, to be fair, it's totally out of character for the Leafs. When was the last time a number 43 on the Leafs got suspended in the first round of the playoffs?
Someone said that. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't notice he's actually number 43.
Yeah.
Who is it that he hit?
I don't know. Ross Colton.
Yes.
Yeah. Officer Ross Colton.
What was going through his head?
He made one good hit right before the crowd got fired up, and he just felt electricity going through his body, and he just stapled Officer Ross Colton to the boards.
Drilled him from behind, couple feet away from the boards. Colton's face hit the glass first, of course, because it's a hit from behind. And you just look at that. And I'm like, I'm not saying this as someone who wants the Leafs to lose, or I'm not saying this as someone who wants the Leafs to win. I'm saying this as someone who's watching the game like, what a dumbass. In the playoffs, you take every hit you can. If it's a borderline hit, you take it and you make the refs make that call.
That wasn't borderline.
No. That was a mile past the border.
The whole way. Yeah.
My God, you made it all the way. It was idiotic and it hurt his team. Or so you thought.
You'd think. They killed that penalty and it was all Leafs from there on.
I think there was a stat that the Leafs actually had a higher expected goals percentage on that PK than the Lightning.
I think I counted 3 separate 2-on-1s for the Leafs. The Tampa Bay Lightning showed up with one of the most pathetic 5-minute power plays I have seen in my entire life.
That might be one of the worst games I've ever seen in recent memory, which for me is like a couple months.
Right.
And a lot of Red Wings games.
Yeah.
I've seen a playoff team put up into the first game of the playoffs. It looked like they'd never played together.
It was to the point where I was like, oh man, maybe I was wrong about how far they can make it before their legs fell off because of like 3 cup runs. Like that game, you're like,
Hedman was horrible.
Bad. Like the whole team was like
awful.
They got nothing coming together in every single power play. It's like you blink and it's gone, or even Toronto had most of the opportunities.
And all the Leafs players that needed to be good were good. And I was thinking this might be a very quick series.
I was like, if this series goes like this, it's 5 games at most.
And then Tampa came out and stomped the Leafs the next game.
And then the veteran team who's won 2 cups in a row are not shocked by any situation they get in, and then they win.
Yeah. Which that part shouldn't come as a surprise. John Cooper has gone all the way twice. You know, Vasilevsky, Hedman, Stamkos, Point, like those guys have won it all twice in a row. You talk about, you know, what it takes to win and what a winning culture looks like. It's not just about how you react after you win. It's how you react when you put up a stinker like they did in game 1.
And Corey Perry was under the Leafs skin all night. He was living in Wayne Simmons' head. And Wayne Simmons took 2 horrendous penalties that led to 2 Tampa goals, and that was literally it.
All I could think that whole time was for years, on the first however many years under Kyle Dubas, every boomer window Leafs fan, we need grit and toughness, enough of this soft team. And then Wayne Simmons gets on and like, this is what we've been begging for. And then he damn near single-handedly cost him a playoff game because, you know, grit, tough guy takes 2 bad penalties. Shocking.
He was completely unhinged.
That's the type of shit. If Wayne Simmons plays the next game, you question Sheldon Keefe as a coach because holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle Clifford can't. Well, he can come in now.
Well, 1 game suspension.
To be fair, Kyle Clifford was trying to do the Leafs a favor by removing Kyle Clifford from the lineup.
Right.
So you got to reward something like that by putting him back in the lineup.
Some people were like, why are we starting Clifford over Spezza? I'm like, well, it's not going to matter now.
Yeah, but that's a boneheaded play, but it's kind of all worked itself out.
So the end of that first game, how many maximum allowable fines came from that? Because there was the whole brawl where Maroon fed Riley. Riley got Jan Ruda. He cut his head open. Like there was just fights everywhere.
Oh, injected right in my eyeballs.
Labushkin, I'm pretty sure, had the jersey over his face and punched a linesman in the mouth a couple times. Like,
oops.
Yeah. That's the kind. Was it? I think it was Sheldon Keefe or Kyle Dubas was like, I think this is going to be a borderline violent series.
Borderline, huh?
Yeah. But that was about as borderline as the Kyle Clifford hit was.
Well, next series I think you're about to talk about actually is violent. And it's just a bar brawl out there.
Carolina, Boston.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
First, before we start, what was your thought on the Svechnikov hit?
Clean hit.
Textbook.
Okay, good.
Hit.
All right.
Yeah.
Textbook. We can continue to be friends.
Hey, look, yeah, if we said that was a dirty hit, you'd hit us the same way he hit him. And look, if we're Red Wings fans,
too many of Evan's joints would crack if he tried that.
That's true. I can any more CTE, and I might not be. Remember, I'm on this podcast.
You hardly remember now.
That is true.
It's the CTE. You just explained, Ryan.
Right.
Pay attention.
Oh, maybe I also have it. If we were Red Wings fans and that was a Red Wings defender that got blown up, you'd be mad for a couple seconds. And then you look at it and you go, I'm upset that this is true, but that's a clean hit. An inch or two higher, and you're talking about suspension. But it was...
Brandon Carlo gave Lindholm an absolute suicide pass.
And Lindholm came with his head down. The result was he came out with his head down, and you just can't there. Not in the playoffs.
Allmark's gotta be saying something that a guy's coming. Like,
someone shouted. You could hear on the replay, but it wasn't enough.
Not fast enough.
It was scary. Lindholm could. He was wobbly.
Yeah, he came around the net, and there was no time. And Svechnikov's a big boy. When Ovechkin put him to sleep, that was crazy, but Svechnikov is a monster kid, and he went right through him.
Yeah, that was.
Did you guys hear Jack Edwards calling that?
No, I could not. Will not.
It's like the replay was running where his feet stayed on the ice. He hit the chest, and Jack Edwards is narrating. He's like, headshot, left his feet. I'm like, are we watching the same replay?
Yeah, he's just
I appreciate a good Homer broadcast because 90% of the people who are watching are of that fan base. So I'm very okay with it. I don't even understand how Bruins fans can tolerate Jack Edwards.
It's as expected. Tune out of that broadcast if you can. I especially watching these playoffs. I just try to find between the national and whatever local broadcast, whichever one is more impartial.
I have, obviously it's a great series, but I'm at the point, if my only option is to watch that game with Jack Edwards or not at all, I generally will pick not at all, and I'll go to another game.
Carolina's look good, though.
Even
though they have no goaltending. Literally no one.
They're not going to need
it. They're on E-Bug watch every night.
Every night. And it's I can't believe that. I thought Boston, I thought a little bit of what makes Tampa, you can't bet against them even if they're gassed and maybe the worst team on paper, if you believe that. I thought that same thing would apply to Boston, but Carolina's...
Stealing Brad's line, they're wish.com Tampa Bay.
Yes. But
the way they're playing this series, it's more like AliExpress.
Oh, we got your rankings of 3-month shipping overseas merchants now. But yeah, Carolina is dominating in an almost historic way in terms of how they're controlling play.
Yeah, I screwed up that pick.
Same. Yeah.
That was dumb.
Same. Yeah, it's 2-0 Carolina, and you got to hope that Boston if you cheer for Boston or you pick them in your bracket, that they're going to turn around at home. Although Brad Marchand fined today $5,000 for slashing Kochetkov.
Yeah, whoever that might be.
Hey, second-round pick.
Cross-checked him and then two-hand slashed the body, which Red Wings fans will know he did that to Larkin not too long ago as well. And it's they called offsetting minors. Kochetkov gave him a hack to his his shin pads, and Marchand delivered a two-hand slash to the goalie who is the only healthy professional goalie left for for Carolina in the building, and that referee called offsetting minors. Remember what Oscar Sundqvist got ejected for? His slash? After review?
Well, that was in the regular season. These are the good refs now, Ryan.
Someone made the argument to me. They're like, right, but suspensions get lessened in the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, suspensions. $5,000 in the playoffs is the same as $5,000 in the regular season, you dope. It doesn't matter. You got to, and I'm not saying, suspend Marchand for him. Don't give him an offsetting penalty there. Give him the only or the extra. You can't do that. It's thankfully they solved it now. They fined him $5,000, so he won't do it again.
No, definitely not. Keep him in the series. The more games he's in, the more entertaining it is for outside viewers.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That series is a bloodbath.
Someone will die.
Pittsburgh, New York. So that game, I think, just ended. Game 1.
I regret staying up for that so much.
I don't. I love playoff hockey.
It was fun as hell, but I felt it.
Triple overtime, and you knew it was going to end the way it did. Shesterkin made, was it 75 saves?
9. I thought it was 79. Oh,
It was. It was north of 70. After that, it's
79. Yeah, you're right. 79 saves, and he lost. When I said I think New York is going to win because Shesterkin is going to goalie Pittsburgh, I didn't know I could somehow be half right.
They goalie Pittsburgh, that's for sure.
79 saves. The shots on goal in that game was absurd. That amount was absurd.
And the main talking point, like on Twitter immediately after the game, was, Louis Domingue comes in and steals the game for the Penguins. I'm like, excuse me? You're going to talk?
No, he did do well.
Oh, he didn't allow a goal in the 17 shots he faced. Meanwhile, we're not talking about the goalie who stopped 79.
I think plenty of people are.
Now, after they reviewed it, and they're like, oh, yeah, right, wow. But no, it was the weirdest 30 minutes on Twitter.
Louis Domingue did have a lot. I think he had quality shots against him.
Not many.
Well, that's because
he had some, yeah, but not many.
That's because Pittsburgh was the better team. Or at least they, especially like in overtime, you saw the way that they were playing. You're like, yeah, it's going to end. Shesterkin can only do so much. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the overturned goal.
There was an overturned goal
with like 2.5 minutes left that would have won the game for the Rangers.
Oh, I thought you were kidding.
No.
Yeah. So,
and some would argue should have counted.
Was that in overtime or regular time?
Regular, third period.
So, with 3 minutes left in the game, Capo Caco drives the net with the tie game, and seemingly creates the play.
Oh, I did see this. Yes, I did see this. Sorry.
Seemingly creates the play where the Rangers scored the leading goal. It was Kako who drove that.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
and then made that ridiculous and behind the back pass from his stomach that now doesn't matter.
Yeah, and Philip Hedl scored. And what it was overturned upon review for goalie interference. And one half of the argument said, well, he was pushed into the goalie, and the other half of the argument said, well, it looked like with how he was driving the net, he was going to crash into Casey DeSmith anyways. He was really deep in that crease. After review, it came back. My personal opinion, it's not a black and white call. I understand it's marginal. I understand it's subjective. I agree he's deep in that crease. I think the way he was driving, he was going to hit that goalie anyways. Yeah, there's a shove, but there's a shove from a defender every time you drive the net. And my personal opinion is he took Casey DeSmith out of the play based on the action and the route that he took. And that's just the way I interpret it. And I know, Brad, you thought.
I love all the words you use there because that is exactly why this is a problem. My personal opinion, the way I interpreted it, just my opinion.
Wow, get wrecked, Ryan.
No, this is good. I'm not giving Ryan crap. I'm happy he phrased it that way because it gets to the root of why I hate this rule. I do not care which way that goal was ruled. I see the argument very plainly from both sides. Did that Penguins defenseman push Kako? He absolutely did. Did Kako make much of an attempt to get out of the way? No, he did not. What was the primary cause of contact? Kako not getting out of the way or the shove? We don't know. There's no definitive way to know. Why are we reviewing this?
No, wrong.
No, this is
how are you going to tell?
Because it comes down to subjective opinion, interpretation.
So what? Just the initial call. Imagine that's the Red Wings. You'd be losing your damn mind if they didn't review that.
I absolutely would. But if it's not a rule in the rule book,
it is a rule in the rule book.
Because if it is to the naked, it's like the same thing with the offside review, but even more confusing. If you cannot tell with the naked eye what is definitive,
that's not a thing though. That's made up.
No, but this is made up. The rule is everything's made up. It's a goddamn sport. The rules are made up. But anyways, I get what people are saying, and I get why we have reviews for certain things. Now, if they rewrote the rules, like, okay, if there's contact with the goalie inside the crease 100% of the time, it's no goal, fine. Then that's very easy to review. He's in the blue. He hit the goalie. Doesn't matter how he got there. No goal. Fine. But because of the whole, was he propelled by the defender and yada, 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 made a reasonable attempt to get out of the way, yada, 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 it's entirely like an opinion call. And it's hard to review and come up with a confident answer on what is and isn't correct. I hate most reviews, but in certain things where it's very definitive, it makes sense. Did this puck cross the line or not? Of course you have to review that. Even with the offsides, as much as I hate them, it's a black and white review. Is his foot over the line? Yes, it is. Okay, he definitively broke a rule. In this instance, it's like the poster child for, did Kako break a rule? And the answer is, maybe.
It's the fastest game on earth. It is, and I'm not even talking about this, and I know you're going to flip this around, you're going to use this for offsides in the future, so I understand that, and I concede.
Please give me the momentum.
It is the fastest game on earth, and there are going to be certain things that are going to be impossible to suss out 100% yes or 100% no. There's going to be subjectivity involved, but I don't think that it is so subjective, or it's such a personal opinion that you can't at least make a guiding argument based on what the spirit of the rule, or what the rule actually dictates, and you just have to make your judgment call. That's what the referees are for. That's what Toronto's for. I am fully on board with you that is a goaltender interference. What is goaltender interference? The Red Wings fans have been asking that since Thomas Holmstrom entered the league. I understand.
Apparently it's being anywhere within the realm of a goalie.
And I agree with you. That needs to be clarified a little bit better, because I would also love to see the subjectivity gone. But I think this is one of those edge cases where there's no way the situation was going to shake out without subjectivity, but a bigger travesty would be to not review. I have no problem with the review. I have no problem with how long the review took. And I think the only injustice that would have been done was if they had not reviewed that play. I fully disagree. I think you have to review that, and you just have to accept that the referees give it their best try there. I don't know.
Do you think it should be a goal? Do you both agree that it should be a goal?
I don't care whether or not it should have or shouldn't have. That's kind of my whole argument.
I think they made the right call by calling it back.
My point is, I can absolutely see the argument from both sides.
But Brad is saying, why are we even reviewing that? Because it's so subjective.
Oh, I see.
It's a 50-50 play that gets reviewed. And here's the part of the review that actually bugged me. Because again, I watched that review and I went, yep, this is absolutely a 50-50 call. He definitely got pushed, and I definitely don't think he made the effort to get out of the way. So we need a conclusive review to overturn the call on the ice. And the call on the ice was good goal. You're telling me that review is conclusive? Bullshit. No way.
I think okay. No. See, here's where I can understand your argument. I personally disagree, but I think
I see the argument for it being waived off. But the call on the ice was good goal, and nothing in that review made me say, or anybody say, that is 1,000% beyond a shadow of a doubt goalie interference.
For me, it was how deep he was into that blue paint. I don't think
again, the argument's good.
Yeah.
I'm using the word conclusive, because that's the word that's always thrown around with reviews. Definitive, whatever, doesn't matter. Nothing was definitive about that. It was a 50-50 call, and it got overturned.
Evan, do you think they should have been reviewing that?
Yeah, I think they should have reviewed it, but I think it was a goal.
Oh, here we are. We got all sides of the coin here.
Proving my point.
I think if there's any contact from the defender on the player and pushes him into the goalie, doesn't matter. You fucked up.
Yep. Isn't that like a...
Should have had better positioning and pushed him out away from the net.
Yeah, but that burns every defenseman whoever
be better at hockey.
Sometimes Connor McDavid's trying to go around.
But the same argument is now you're telling Forrest to not drive the net.
No, you drive the net, but either have an escape plan so you don't run the goalie.
He did.
Yeah, he took the goalie with him.
It was getting across the crease.
He got hit.
It in.
I'll argue till the sun comes up about whether or not it was a goal, and I can't say.
Listen, I'm not going to be here for that, so you would win.
No, and I agree with you. I'm like, again, I'm going to repeat for the 100th time. I see fully both sides of this argument. That I don't have a conclusive opinion on whether it should or should not have been a goal. So my default is it was a goal on the ice at 50-50, go with the ref's call.
Okay, I can come to terms with that. I can come to terms with that where you say it should have been more conclusive, or the rule book should be more prescriptive about what is and isn't goaltender interference. What I can't get around to is we're not reviewing that in the playoffs. But I think we landed on a spot here where the anger makes sense. And I'm happy to disagree on whether or not it was a goal, because again,
both things happened. So how do you which one is the deciding factor?
Well, let us know. Do you think it was a goal or not? And if you're really angry about how this argument shook out, it's at Hockeytown Evan.
I'll be sure to read every word.
And remember that he can't read, so you're gonna have to spell it out with some pictures for him. Okay, so we have that. Those are the every series. That's all 8 series so far. Some of them have had 2 games. By the time you're listening to this, I think every series will have had 2 games. So the playoffs have been fun so far. we'll see how this thing progresses. For future episodes, what you're going to be seeing is our full Red Wings season in review kickoff, as well as more prospect profiles coming up, in addition to continuing playoff coverage. Sunday, we're going to be doing a little bit of a preview about, possible picks and stuff and the draft lottery and how that's going to shake out. And then depending on how the draft lottery goes, our midweek episode is either going to be very normal or very excited. There is a 12.5% chance that we'll be excited. And 87.5% chance that we won't be.
I just don't fall. That's all I ask. Can we just pick 8th?
Hit that button.
Like, don't fall out the window, or
hit that button.
Which button?
The button.
We're doing a tankathon. All right, I forgot about that. Right before overtime, we are going to do a tankathon, and the Red Wings from pick 8 stay in pick 8, baby.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Cool.
Arizona, Chicago. Yeah.
Ugh.
I would honestly rather see Montreal and Detroit's division take one of the top 2 picks than Chicago move up and take it.
I love how, like, the 2 teams that won this iteration of a draft lottery have both been fined significantly by the NHL in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's very nice. Very good. Okay, why don't we jump over into overtime here, which we will start off with our Patreon supporters, because they are the reason this show exists and why we can do things like draft lottery live streams and why we can do things like pull together those Winged Wheel podcast flannels for you. So patreon.com/Winged Wheel podcast if you want to support the show. They're the reasons we can do what we do. We are going to start off with a question here from Connor Dukes. Says, the Wings being bad for this long has really helped me learn to cheer for other teams in the playoffs. I tend to go with a fun pick, and I think that's Minnesota. Who do you think is the most fun cup pick?
Florida.
And
Cup pick, eh?
And he says Colorado is not an answer.
Florida. They play the most fun style of hockey in the playoffs, and they haven't won a playoff run since 96.
Fun.
Edmonton for maximum chaos.
Edmonton is pretty fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
You'll definitely not have a dull moment.
I still like Minnesota as the fun pick.
Carolina looks pretty fun right now. They're not getting much of a fight.
They got rid of the storm surge. Their fun days are over, Ryan.
Yeah. Imagine the storm surge if they win the cup, though.
Svechkov just throws it through the glass at the end of the arena.
Mormon Sidevinson says, not that I want to see Zadina get moved out, but what are your thoughts about a trade centered around Zadina for Provorov? Both guys could benefit from a change of scenery, and the Wings could really use some lefty help.
I actually did have that thought the other day, but Detroit would probably have to add a lot. Provorov has had significant NHL seasons under his belt. Zadina has not.
Philly is weird with their management, though. Sometimes they make decisions where I'm like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, they're bad. They're really bad at their job. So this is something. Remember the old saying, to be a good GM in the NHL, you have to call the bad GMs a lot? Steve Yzerman should have Philly's line on speed dial. They're like the underrated, like shockingly bad management team.
Brad's Stepstool. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just read the name and I immediately get distracted by it. Brad Stepstool says, hello, Dub-Dubs. I'd like to hear your thought. You can be a fly on the wall in Yzerman's office for one day this offseason. Which day would you choose and why? If you have to know the specific date, I guess you have to go with free agency. But if I'm allowed to pick another day, it's where I don't know the specific date on the calendar. It's whatever day Yzerman is making a trade at like the Mantle level.
That's the obvious answer. My gut tells me draft, but I feel like we wouldn't get that much fun info out of it. But that is actually when a lot of trades happen. Because free agency is whatever. It would be interesting to see who else he's targeting. Yeah, I'm going draft or free agency.
Draft would be fun.
Draft, because there's trade possibilities there.
You kind of have to understand that you're not going to get the moon all in one go.
To be fair, at the draft, even if the trades don't happen, the trades probably will still be talked about.
Keenan O'Donohue says, looking ahead at the draft, let's say Cooley, Wright, Nazar, and Savoy are gone. The top 2D are also gone. Who would you guys take if it was between Connor Geekie, Kemmel, Lambert, or Lekera-Mackey? I would lean towards Kemmel, even though a center is needed. What are your thoughts? Cheers, boys, and go Wings and Kitchener Rangers.
Probably Kemmel or Lekera-Mackey.
I'm thinking, yeah, I agree. Both of those make a contention. I have not a bias against Geekie. I'm just not completely sold on him, but that's a tough pass too, right?
It is, because he's the one that if you're wrong about him, he'll make you look stupid.
Yes, but if you're right about him, it'll make the team who drafted him that high look stupid.
Yeah.
At what point does drafting Geekie become automatic for you? Like what pick? Even with your concerns about him.
15 to 20.
Yeah.
Like that's got like assuming no one else prominent falls, that's got to be getting to automatic territory because he's still good. Okay. I feel like I'm going to have these Connor Geekie arguments like with everybody, like I did with Kirby Dach in his year.
I don't even think there's so much arguments. It's just it's a risk, right? You're talking.
Oh yeah.
You're talking about risk, and I think there's players who are a little bit more of a certainty, but then the positional stuff gets in there. John Evans says, "Hello, gentlemen. Greetings from Ohio. Lots of talk in Winnipeg regarding Mark Scheifele, and I can't help but think about how the Red Wings could use another center. If you had the chance, would you try to make a move for him?"
His press conference was weird.
Winnipeg's a mess right now.
That was bad. Mark Scheifele's also almost 30, so no.
Practically dust.
Basically dead.
I don't know that he'd want to come here. I don't like.
No, why would he? His statement was basically, yeah, I want to know what the path forward is with this team. Basically stating if they're going into a rebuild, he wants no part of it. That's what I took from it.
Yeah. He's, I don't know. That's going to be a tough situation. How much control he's going to elicit and where he goes.
Depending who you talk to, a lot of people think he's not as good as he's made out to be.
I think he's plenty good. I don't think he's a superstar.
Yeah, that's probably where most people should fall.
Winnipeg is going to be an interesting team to follow and see what they do and how much they clear out. And then one more here from Eric Asmus, who's a new patron. Welcome to the Dub Dub Club, Eric, and thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. It says, anyways, says hello and thought it was time to support other than some merch, hoping to make it from South Dakota to a meetup in my first Red Wings game in Detroit. Eric, it's a good time, man. Can't wait to see you there. He says, anyways, my question would be how many players from last year's roster could even make any of these playoff teams? 4, 5? Watching the playoff game so far has made me realize just how far away this team is from contending.
Yeah, it's a good point. Legitimately probably 0 in the bottom 6.
Oh.
And maybe 2 defensemen?
What, 2?
Sider and Hronek, maybe? Walman, maybe? We'll say 50-50 between both of them adds up to one of them, probably.
Walman as a 7, Hronek as like a 5-6, maybe a 4. Sider makes it, obviously. I think I think we'd be generous to say both Walman and Hronek. That's probably a weaker decor.
Yeah.
And then the forwards are quite obvious.
Yeah, like you have Larkin, Bertuzzi, Raymond, Verana, probably Suter pretty comfortably.
Like lower down.
Yeah. Fabbri, but he's hurt, so it doesn't count. I think beyond them, who's the next best bets? Zadina and Veleno.
It's the thing. Most teams have like one of the kind of players that the Red Wings have 10 of, like low in their lineup. So there could be quite a few that would hypothetically, but how many all at once in the same team? Not very many.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the only Reddit question we have is from Harsey. It says, when is Evan named the new head coach of the Wings, and will he continue to be on the pod?
That'd be an awful job.
You would be awful, or it would be an awful job?
Yes.
Oh, well, at least he's honest. What would be your least favorite part about coaching the Wings?
The hours. I feel like those guys basically just get a bedroom in the arena and just sleep there.
You have to be on all the time.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that at all.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't be a good fit. Brad and I would be calling for Evan out on the first day.
Oh, probably.
I would be too.
I don't disagree with Evan. Like, I want a million jobs in hockey, and coach is not one of them.
As soon as you, like we said last episode, as soon as the ink is down on the paper, your time has started.
Yeah. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up this episode. Appreciate you all tuning in. Again, stay tuned for the Winged Wheel Podcast flannels. Stay tuned for the Red Wings season in review. It's going to be coming, first part of it's going to be coming at you Sunday. Happy early Mother's Day to the mothers out there. And appreciate you all. So we'd like to thank all of our listeners, the FanDuel Sportsbook for supporting the show, the shout out to the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and thank you all for coming together to support them. And we'd like to thank our name level sponsors on Patreon. Arjun Shanker, Eves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, the Stay Fresh Cheese Bag, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry Driver for the number 69, Cryan Ryan Henna's Banana Slamma Jamathong, Matthew M. Rice, Billy Howell, Brandon M., Carl Britannia Nanalewski, Chimmy, Citizen High Five, Coyotes Season Tickets in Tempe, Craig Kibble, Daniel Garcia, Derek Enstem, DJ Denton, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Han Ali, Hassam Al-Qassem, I'd Leave My Wife for Cider, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kaylin Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Marcus, Matt McKay, Nicholas Fritz, R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Sean Levine, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Sean Levine, brand new name level sponsor, welcome. Stay Fresh Greach Bags, the master and champion of the Winged Wheel podcast, the freshest of cheese bags, the legend himself, Joseph F. Fournier, Vibe Burr Raider, Zach Spring, Sam Bankson, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Adam Now I Finish Better Than Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Ben Barron, Connor Leighton, Dave W., Evans Parking Garage, Evans Bingo Card, James Laporte, Jeremiah Dobo, Jeremy Brocker, J.M. Rhapsody, John Evans, sorry I forgot to change my name back, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Matt Keeler, Matt S., Missing Vladdy More Than Ever, Papa Woody, Puck Norris, Revi DeLuca, Roses by Outcast is a good song, Salty and Delicious, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Trevor Pevivar, Zach Handyside, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Thank you all so much. We'll see you Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockeytown Evan.